Welcome everyone, this is Arpad from Starpath Academy, and today I have a very special guest on from Lebanon. Lebanon is a beautiful country in the Mediterranean, neighboring Syria and Israel. It had an advanced economy just a couple of years ago. It is a well-known tourist destination to many. If Lebanon would be a US state, it would be roughly the 16th largest state by its population. Its capital is Beirut, population-wise roughly the size of Arlington, Texas. It is a beautiful country with towering skyscrapers and beautiful beaches. It's a westernized country in every way, with an advanced economy, but recently it had experienced an economic downturn and hyperinflation. Today's guest is Ali from Lebanon. He runs the YouTube channel Lebanon Hyperinflation Ali. I will have a link to his channel in the description. Thank you, Ali, for coming onto the channel. I was really looking forward to this interview. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for this opportunity.
So you posted a video on your YouTube channel. You labeled it "The Daily Life in Lebanon Amidst the Country's Hyperinflation." One of my viewers had sent me a link to that, and I was blown away how well informed you are, not just about what's happening, but also with the economic situation in Lebanon. But you also show the daily life of the people during hyperinflation. Could you tell us what inspired you or how you were able to organize your words in such a nice way and to show exactly in a couple of words what is happening in Lebanon?
You know, I watch a lot of similar content on YouTube, and as an avid YouTube consumer, I know what I would want to know, as a viewer. So when creating that video and any other video, actually, I really put myself in the shoes of the viewer because I've been there and think about what that viewer would enjoy. And one thing that is really hard to find online is things that relate to the daily life. It's very easy to find people just sharing anecdotes or giving you numbers or giving you headlines. But what's not easy to find is someone going into the supermarket and it's dark and, not finding the basic things that he needs. So I wanted to reflect that side of the crisis.
I think you had the great perspective. It's exactly what I would want to see, and it's amazing. I encourage everyone to check out your channel and that particular video, but also snippets of life that you show during hyperinflation. It's totally amazing. So thank you very much. Can you let the viewers know about the actual devaluation of what happened to the currency? For instance, what was the cost of $1 a year ago? What is the cost of $1 right now in Lebanese pounds?
For almost the two past decades, the Lebanese lira was pegged to the US dollar. So we never had any fluctuations in the Lebanese value. In those past decades, $1 would buy you 1,500 Lebanese liras. And the purchasing power is pretty similar to the purchasing power of a dollar in the States. So a Pepsi can might cost $1. So some people might think 1,500 or 1,500 Lebanese liras is a lot, but no, it's really the same value as a dollar. And because the currency was artificially pegged, people were able to use both currencies concurrently. So in everyday transactions, like even if you buy a banana from the street, you can pay in dollars and you will get back in either liras or dollars. People never even differentiated between the two currencies, which created a lot of jokes after the clash, like people remembering, remember when I used to pay for my banana in $100 bill? So we used to use both currencies interchangeably. That's how stable it was. People never had any reason not to trust the currency until the October of 2019, when the Lebanese people wake up on like protests And then those protests started increasing across the country. But at the same time, the protests were sort of initiated by a slight change or a slight lack of dollar supply in the market. So for some reason, people were having harder time exchanging currency. And all of a sudden, the currency started devaluating pretty rapidly for what we are used to, because it never devaluated before. And then that, coupled with the protests, gave the banking sector a reason to shut down for 2 whole weeks. So for 2 whole weeks in October 2019, no one had access, or at least so we thought, like normal people. No one had access to a bank. All ATM transactions were blocked across all the banks, and the banks closed for 2 weeks. They claimed that it's because of security reasons. But then something weird happened when the banks opened. The banks opened, and then people discovered that they're no longer allowed to pull out their money. So no one had made any plans, to take some, put on the side. And it started with very strict limits. So even if I had my own dollars in the bank, I could have $100,000. I was only allowed to pull out $50 a week, and I had to explain why do I want $50 from my own money. And then that limit just disappeared. People were no longer able to do anything with their dollars in the banks. With that, with no access to dollars and with an economy that is based on imports, people need dollars. Like everything essentially is paid for in dollars. The value of the items when things are imported is in dollars, and people wanted dollars, and dollars were not to be found in the market. And the price started hiking up. And it was a while before what's unique about the price hike or the devaluation of the currency in Lebanon is that the devaluation is, there's no framework for that. So Lebanon was never a currency trading country because of the peg. We always knew what the currency price is. So the value, the real market value was being dictated purely by the public negotiating amongst each other. So until, the dollar was being sold for 10,000 liras at one point, and the bank still believed it's worth 1,500. A lot of people, when you go to Google right now, it still reflects the price of the currency.
I looked at it and I thought something's not right. Yeah, go ahead.
And that's where you start seeing the other side of the problem, which is the political corruption. There's a reason the government does not want to officially admit a certain price to the dollar. It's a chance for smuggling subsidies. It's a chance for giving people their dollars back in liras at much lower rates. So right now, the way the government is sort of buying back your dollars is they'll tell you, what, you cannot take your dollars, but if you accept 3,000 liras for the dollar, which is, by the way, 20,000 liras worth right now. So they give you an ultimatum, like you either don't take your dollars or we buy your dollars and you take it in liras. And that's when they started printing. And that political corruption combined with a non-producing economy got us to where we are today.
Amazing description. Thank you very much for describing it in such detail, because people think that if they have enough cash savings in the bank, then just because there's a collapse in the stock market or something like that, or economical calamities, that they will be able to use that cash to buy up assets during the hyperinflation, during the
Not
economic collapse.
necessarily, and it depends
Yeah,
on where you live and who has power over who. So
connections. Yeah.
the banking sector and the ruling class are married. They are the same people. While I was not able to send money to my brother who is probably studying in Germany to pay
Mm,
his tuition, um,
amazing.
billionaires were smuggling hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. And really, it's the people who really need that money who had the control over them. And until today, another thing that shows corruption, until today, the government is not admitting an official haircut. Although they're really giving you back your dollars in 10% of their value.
Hmm.
And I think the reason they're not admitting or passing a law for a haircut is because once you pass the law, once things get better, there might be demands for money getting paid back because it's
Hmm.
documented, right? So the government did a haircut of
Of course, yes, that
35%.
makes total
I mean, it's
sense.
documented. Maybe 20 years from now, they can pass another law to pay back the people. I mean,
Yes, of
but
course.
people
But
don't
if
want
it never
documentation.
happened on paper, then what? Who you are going to
Exactly. So
sue?
people
Yes.
don't, so those people don't want documentation of the haircuts. They don't want documentation because there's no way to come back later and demand for anything, as a population. Right now, the Lebanese are facing an unofficial haircut of at least 75 to 85%. People who have their dollars are getting them at 10% of their real value.
10%.
That is even if they're getting their dollars, because for some reason the government decided that the money that has been deposited in the bank after October 17th, 2019 is dealt with different than the money that was in the bank before that.
Mm,
So the preferential goes for the money that has went to the banks after the protests started.
I understand.
So,
So,
and
for
that's why
instance,
now we have many currencies in Lebanon, like many valuations, even for the dollar. So you have
mhm,
the actual cash dollar, and then you have we call it the lollar, the Lebanese dollar. It is a
mhm.
real dollar, but it's a dollar that is stuck at
Oh,
the
I see.
bank.
Oh, I see.
So
But it's
you can,
actual US dollars. So the
it's a
viewers
US
understand.
dollar. So when I put it
But
in the
they
bank, it
control the
was,
flow of it. So that's why it's
so
not
yeah,
really USD
it,
dollars because
it's
you
a
cannot
low
control
value
it. Yeah.
US dollar. So, and you
Hmm.
can still trade with it in Lebanon, but it costs, you know, the last video I posted was about an
Yes.
iPhone that's for
Tell us
six
about it.
thousand
Yeah.
dollars, and yeah, it is $6,000. It is someone who actually collected $6,000 and put them at the bank, but the bank now does not want to give that to you.
Hmm.
So they'll be like, okay, I'll take your fake $6,000. I'm sorry. So yeah, I'll take, if you want to pay for something that's for $1,000, they would ask for, you either pay me $1,000 in cash or you pay $6,000 in ransom money.
Right.
The
Right.
imaginary
So
dollar. And
technically, the US dollars split in two. One that's outside of the banking system on the street that you can actually pay with dollars. And then the US dollars that was stuck in the banking system that can only go through the banking system. And now that US
yes,
dollars that you had in the banking system is sort of a crypto US dollars that you can pay with, but the valuation, like purchasing an iPhone
yeah,
or
and you
something
can
like
only
that,
do
is
that
way off.
locally.
Now it's practically its own crypto or its own currency. So
Yeah,
you've been
it's
wiped
really
out if you had bank, yeah, your dollars in
it's
the bank.
pretty much a virtual currency. It's a number on the screen that's being sent
Amazing.
across
Yeah.
banks. That's why I cannot use those dollars to buy anything online. I cannot use them to pay merchants. So only the Lebanese businesses would accept those dollars, but again, at a very inflated rate because it's not a real dollar.
So I want the
So
viewers to pay attention to this because when we kind of think about like what could be happening, like, and when we look at the past, well, there's a history of them doing this, them doing that. You cannot predict because they are making up the rules as you are going. They can make up new rules because when we experienced hyperinflation, high inflation in Romania in the 90s, technology was different, everything was different. We suffered a lot, but now with technology, with government having so much control, they can make up new rules that you just cannot prepare for if you're in the system. So that
Especially
was
when you have a
mind-blowing for
corrupt
me. Thank you.
system, especially, in more developed countries, um, they try to separate, the capital from the politics. So that's one of the problems in Lebanon, is that the ruling class, and that's what we call them. They're a ruling class. We are a democracy, but really there is a ruling class that has been ruling Lebanon for the past 50 years. And those are the people who actually made the civil war, and they're still there. You can call them a bunch of very well-connected families that run Lebanon, and they're the people with the banks. And they're really just using the government, and although everything is legal on paper, although there's a central bank that's separate from the government, but then those are the same people.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of money laundering happens. That's where a lot of smugglings happen.
How is this portrayed in the media? What is the media like? Whose side is the media on? Are they truly reporting the truth? Is it split between, or how are people? What is the voice of government through the media trying to explain this? How is that happening in Lebanon?
Before I answer that, just want to tell you something. We can go back to it. Actually, we don't have two prices for the dollars. We have at least 5 or 6 prices for the dollar right now. And if you're interested about that, we can get back to it. So the media in Lebanon is also pretty unique. All the media outlets in Lebanon are owned by political parties who are active in the government. So we do not have a single independent or non-affiliated TV channel. So naturally, they do need to serve the propaganda of the people that are behind them. However, they also want to appeal to the public. So one thing we are famous of as in Lebanon, especially with the government, is that people just throw blame at each other. Everyone admits that we are effed up. Everyone admits that. And then you have a lot of different political parties, and everyone says the country is bankrupt because of bad people. We need to capture those bad people. And that's what everyone says. So that serves them well, because the people who follow them would they always play on the guilt factor. So you don't feel bad. You know that someone else is being bad. And in TV, it also serves them because it sounds like they're actually sharing people's voices. But really, it's because all people in Lebanon are used to us just complaining, but then blaming someone else as a political system.
That was very familiar to us in Eastern Europe as well. I think it's also a cultural thing, but to be honest, now the Western countries have this pretty much the same. And when you were saying that two-tier class or two-tier society, to be honest, my opinion is it's like that everywhere. It's sort of papered over or behind the curtains. But when a collapse happens, then suddenly you're able to see what actually is being portrayed, or what was happening all the time. So thank you. Something that the viewers might not. So let's go ahead with what you wanted to say about the dollars.
The different dollars. I'll try to keep it simple, because it's really complicated, and it confuses Lebanese people too.
That's the point, I bet. Thank you for watching this first part of the interview. There's more to come right here on YouTube. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you get alerted when the rest of the interview is released. Thank you very much.